The devil won't find me down at the crossroads.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. We have a guest in studio today from Speak, Vermont, Marie Tiemann. We're going to be talking about her organization and the efforts they're doing with respect to school choice and other matters in school. So, Marie, I'm going to let you take it away and introduce Speak Vermont.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me here. It's great to see you.
My
and
pleasure.
Just be able to present about SPEAK, which stands for Students, Parents, Educators for Achievement Through Knowledge. And we are advocating for excellence in academics, excellence in education, academics that are free of political and sexual persuasion. And our mission is to shift the children into an education that's directed by their parents as quickly as possible. And how do we do that? So first we have to find out what's going on. And we ask parents to help us let us know what they find in their school or what they're unhappy about or what they are happy about. We also inspect different policies, different practices and procedures, and let people know, and then we have to let people know about that. So we're working on some of those efforts. There's a deep dive you really need to do when it comes to finding out what's happening in the schools. You know, when we used to send our kids to school, we had great confidence. We didn't have to look at multiple policies and multiple practices and various curriculum. We were really trustworthy. But today I think parents really need to become better informed. They need to really know what their children are learning, if they agree with it, and if they don't agree with it, and be able to have some choice and some say in that matter.
Right. Well, parents are paying taxes to have their kids go to school, so they should, in my view, they should be the first authority with respect to their kids' education.
Exactly.
In my view, anyway. So.
Exactly. And then.
Go ahead.
You know, we are advocating for educators as well. So educators are partners, and we have to get back to the place where they are not overstepping the authority, which is not necessarily coming from the teachers. It's more coming from policies and administration. So that needs to be rolled back a little bit. And we know a lot of teachers' hands are very tied. They have to present things that they might not agree with or say things they might not agree with. We've lost a lot of teachers. I have a daughter who's a teacher in another state, and she said, you know, the industry is really low on teachers. Many have left because of classroom behavior, but also because they don't want to teach some of these new ideologies and some of these new practices. So it's difficult.
So maybe just to change the wording a little, a lot of teachers have left because they are being told to indoctrinate rather than educate. Is that a good way to describe it, maybe?
That's a different way of describing it. I would say they have to use language that's against their religious belief or against even common sense.
Okay.
You know, that
right.
They have to.
So before we started recording, you and I talked about New Hampshire and their parental Bill of Rights, and there have been people trying to get that type of a movement going in Vermont as well. And I think because now it happened just over the river in New Hampshire, it's so much closer now that we are close to getting that type of thing. And I think that would be a great step forward, because then there would be the requirement for schools, teachers, administrators to respond to parental inquiries, right, and not have there be foot dragging, double speak, and just straight up ignoring of parental inquiries or requests. So
Exactly. So Speak had developed a parents' Bill of Rights for the Essex Westford School District.
okay,
And we wanted to get it on the ballot.
yes,
So we did collect about 500 out of the 1,000 signatures. We were a little late in getting our feet on the ground to go door to door
Right.
to get the signatures. We did it in the cold month of February. But, we had a 65 to 70% positive response going door to door.
okay,
We had, and a lot of people were saying they were afraid. So we had people who were either employed by the school or the town or the state, or just would say, I'm afraid for my
Yeah,
job
that's
that
that's
I
a
won't
sad
sign
place
this.
To be. A sad place to be. It really shouldn't be that way.
So when you hear from the media, most of the media and the public, for Vermont, you won't hear that people are for these Parents' Bill of Rights. But we do believe, as we talk to people one-to-one and out in other venues, that this is something Vermont should take hold of, because their rights are being usurped. It's been a gradual fade, or that parents' rights have been overturned, just by saying, the school, well, we'll help you. We'll do this for you. We'll do that for you. And the parents are at that low are thinking, yeah, this is good. They'll help me out. But now the school is taking over in so many areas. Our previous superintendent in Essex thought that school should be a one-stop shop for dental and medical. And,
Right.
that's a parent's responsibility. That's not what education should be for. Although students need to be well served, provide the reference for the parents to take care of that, not for the school to become a government oversight of the child's total health and well-being.
Right. And I think what you're saying is just not, have mom and dad say goodbye to the child when they hop on the bus, and everything in that child's life is then taken care of by a government administration or a government-run administration. And I agree with you. The more you lose as a parent the ability to have influence in your child's life, the less your child is apt to actually connect with you. And we've seen that. And not to go off on too much of a tangent, but that's what Mao did years ago. He turned the youth against their elders. So I think you're going in the right direction. So, but what other things? I know I was looking at the website. I don't have it up, but you have a newsletter. You have all kinds of other stuff that's available for parents on your website. Maybe you want to give a little bit more about what people can find on the website.
Yeah, we are revealing some of the things that we find.
Okay.
We've done quite a deep dive into diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
And finding out, the root of it, where it comes from, why it's instituted, the harms. We did have 4 forums back in 2023 that we showed where diversity, equity, and inclusion was coming from and some of the harms it's causing. And the words sound great. You do want, multiculturalism in your class if it's possible. I mean, if you live in an area that is very remote, that just might not be possible. It has to be organic. It has to be natural that the people in your area are being served.
Right. But I need to point out, the state of Vermont and all the different rural areas of Vermont, there are no restrictions against diversity. That's the thing that's been sold, I think, and people have been they've been gaslit into believing that there's some sort of I don't know, an undercurrent that is causing this lack of quote unquote diversity. It's just Vermont has typically been a cold winter, long winter kind of state, which is a lot of people do not find very conducive to how they want to live their lives. So that has, you need to be. I learned the word rugged when I came to Vermont. You need to be rugged to survive year round in Vermont.
Yeah.
So it takes a certain type of person. So it's just I know where you're going with it, and a lot of people I think have been they've been fooled by the purpose, I think, of the DEI policies.
Right. Right.
So
what really happens is that there's more divisiveness because you're highlighting one group over another. And when you start highlighting one group over another, then you can't be inclusive, right? So, and then it's about putting one group, saying that they are better than another, or this other group is not as nice because you're an oppressor. So you're starting to get oppressed versus oppressor. And children have come home and been afraid, like, oh, why am I white? I'm really a racist just because I'm white. And
this is being in taught or explained to very young children who have no ability to reason about what they're being told.
Right. I taught young children in Sunday school, but I always taught them about other ethnicities because we would talk about missionaries. But, you can present it to young children in such a way that we are to be kind and respectful of all people. Everyone has value. It's not one group over another, or, we're going to have an affinity group for the BIPOC people or an affinity group for indigenous people, right. Or, and this is, we're quite sure this is happening in schools. We just, we're not there to actually witness it. And
and like I said earlier, there's one thing. Okay, we know from history the mistakes we made just as a country. Okay, if we learn from our mistakes, the only way we can learn from them is to teach history, true history, real history.
Right.
So, and demonstrate, okay, this is what happened. This is probably why it happened. This is, at some point we came to a realization that this practice was wrong, whatever it was, and we made corrections. That, I think, is part of what is lost, especially with respect to teaching this kind of, I don't know if you even want to call it a curriculum, to very young children who just need to be kids. They just need to be kids. Let our children just grow up. And when they get to a certain age, teach the appropriate history and the consequences and what we've learned from it. Because we honestly have learned from history. Those of us, who've been taught it. And we cannot be taught, we need to be taught the truth in schools. Our kids need to be taught the truth in school, not revisionist history, right?
Right.
So,
and we had a lot of mistakes in our history, as all human nature has many mistakes.
Right.
And I think it's good to point those out, to know what did you learn from that mistake?
Exactly.
What changes? And, in our country, we did recognize a lot of mistakes, and we did make some changes, and we still have changes to make,
Yes, we do. We're getting smarter and wiser, and like each of us personally has made mistakes in our lives, and we learn from them.
Yeah.
So, and that there's nothing wrong with teaching that to all of our kids right from the very beginning. But the way I believe, and I think you believe, we're going about it wrong. So we're coming up to the end of our first segment, ladies and gentlemen. We got paid some bills. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. Today I have in studio my guest, Marie Tiemann from Speak Vermont. Let's continue with Speak Vermont and what your organization is continually trying to do. And how do people find you?
So you can go to speakvt.org, and we are needing to modify our website a little bit more with bring it up to date. You know, we're a completely grassroots volunteer organization.
Okay.
And last year we did form a formal 501c3.
Okay.
So, you know, we can accept donations, and so that could increase our work by, you know, having more funding. I can get more people to help maybe with some of the technical aspects and help with some social media and things like that. But we put up some of our findings on the website, and some things from other sites as well that are good information. I'm affiliated with Defending Education, which is a national think tank, and they have a wealth of resources. So I often refer people to go to their website as well, defendinged.org, because they'll have information for parents and teachers and just policies. They have a good staff. The President Nikki Neely is often testifying before our federal Congress.
Okay.
So
I didn't know about that national group, so I'm glad you brought that up.
They're a helpful resource, and you know, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We're reaching out now to other areas in the state to try to have parents speak up, and to help them. And so rather than them having to form their own group, they could form a community group that's concerned, and then they can come to us and we can help them out.
Okay.
Because that way I think we'd have a better impact. You know, we are working on drafting a new parents' rights petition, our Bill of Rights, and we want to make that statewide. So that would be more effective than each community developing their own. So, you know, we're
if it
drafting
becomes
that.
a statewide effort, yes, especially if it gets to a point where it's got enough momentum that a bill could find its way into committee and then onto the floor in Montpelier. So having a statewide plan is a much better idea.
Yeah, I think so.
Go ahead.
And, you know, Vermont is really in violation of quite a few things for parents.
Such
as the schools are directed to have 2 sets of files on the students, one for the school and one they can reveal to parents. And that is definitely against a parent's rights. They say
have there actually been documented cases of this where people have found out there have been 2 files?
Yes. And it is a policy. I mean, it's a written policy. And the Attorney General backs it up by saying that they are protecting the children from if a parent does not want to affirm them. So there is that. Yes, we do know of a case where someone discovered a parent discovered the file, and she took some action there.
She took action to.
She didn't take legal action, but they took action with their son.
Okay.
To
okay.
address what was happening, and
this here again, the parental rights thing and parental rights and education, the bill that the governor of New Hampshire signed, I think in this state will probably help with respect to that concern, because they are kids, they are children. If they're under 18, they're still the parents' charge. They're not in control of their lives. I mean, we don't toss the kids the keys to drive themselves to school if they miss the bus.
Right.
We drive them. So to have a child decide that they want to have a second file, and I mean, can you give an example of what they had in this file? Do you have any details of what was that the parent may or may not have found in this file?
This one was related to transgender persuasions.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so
the parents were not in favor of this action,
right?
So they were able to intervene and
Okay.
Work with their son separately. So,
Okay.
and then be guarded.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I can give one story I know of. I was speaking to a woman in southern Vermont one evening at an event, and she had a granddaughter come home. She was watching babysitting before mom and dad got off work, I guess. And the granddaughter she was just off. Something wasn't right, didn't seem very happy, and kept asking and asking. And then finally the granddaughter said, well, I think I want to be a fireman, or I want to be a little boy. And the grandmother was like, well, what made you decide to do that? I want to be a fireman. And the grandmother thought about it, and she tried not to get, outwardly upset or anything. She just sat back and thought about it. And she said, we have women firefighters right now. You can do that.
exactly.
You can do that. And she said her granddaughter looked at her and said, oh, I guess I don't need to be a boy then. And it just took off and went play. And this kind of interaction with your family and, grandmother, grandfather, mom and dad, talking like that and giving kids the information that I don't know why wasn't given to them in school is something that is necessary. I'm not saying don't give a child, and I don't think you are either, don't give a child the psychological or psychiatric care or attention that a child may need. I'm saying from the get-go, and I think you are too, Speak Vermont is, keep the parents apprised of what's going on.
Right. So,
but I'm sure there's all kinds of information like that and all kinds of stories that can be told like that. But it's, I can imagine being a parent these days, sending your child to school might be a little bit on the scary side. So,
yeah, you really have to be vigilant. There are parents who have been very displeased with some of the reading material that's been promoted at the school or read to their children. And we know of a couple of cases where the parent has asked to have their child opt out, and that was not allowed. The superintendent of that particular district wouldn't allow it. And I'm quite sure, the state level administrators are on board with not allowing it. But that is why, this case from Maryland went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the parents that, yes, they can opt their children out of material that is against their religious beliefs. And I believe it covers family values as well, but we're going to investigate that.
So we'll have to see if now the Supreme Court decision, how much pushback there is in this state against that, I guess.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Then, okay. And will there be this second file nonsense to deal with after all? Like you said, if they can keep a second file. That's a little bit disturbing. I know I spoke with someone, this was probably 4 years ago, about some of the reading material I think you're talking about. And I referred to it as kiddie porn, and this person in law enforcement looked at me and said, well, what do you mean? Describe this stuff. Tell me what this stuff is about you're talking about. And I said, well, it's cartoons, it's books, but it's cartoons, it's illustrations. He said, and the question was, it's not actual pictures, photographs. I said, no. He said, well, right now, and I'm sure you've been told, but you can verify with me, it's called educational materials.
Yes.
So that's how it's being passed off. I know as I was looking at your website, there is actual clip of Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana reading from one of these books. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you right now, if I tried to read that book on air, there would be phone calls made and people would be trying to have me thrown off the radio.
Exactly.
This is not a lie. This is truth.
Right.
I couldn't if I wanted to, unless I wanted to really poke the bear and have an attorney on retainer, because the stuff is that bad. It truly is. If you don't believe me, find a friend who's got a child in school, go to the library that they go to and look around. You'll find it. It's out there.
And it's, it's in the classrooms. And these are some of the things some teachers don't want to promote, and they hold
Right.
off on doing anything as much as possible.
Right.
So I just want to mention something about the books and their effects on children, because when you see something, you can't unsee it.
Well, you're right.
You
You're
know?
right. And a small child, if, like you said, if they can't unsee it and it doesn't make sense to them or confuses them or maybe scares them, then if they go silent on you, trying to get them
Yeah.
to open up to you about why they're bothered.
It really causes dopamine levels in their brain to increase, and sometimes that can cause an addiction
Okay.
to them, for them. I know of, a child who was exposed early and later did become, an alcoholic because all of this stuff was just embedded, and,
Right.
then that person has now recovered, thankfully.
Well-
But,
Well, that's one of the unknown harms, because it's a relatively new phenomenon, if we want to call it that, and we don't know long term what this is going to wind up, what effects. I know there are a lot of people who suspect it's going to have long term negative effects, and I tend to agree with them, but we don't know for sure yet. So that's one of the scary
there's
things.
quite a bit of evidence because of children who've been exposed to actual pornography, whether these can be called pornography or not. That's semantics. It's these children are exposed to inappropriate visuals, inappropriate language. So,
Right, and I'm glad
and
you
it's
brought
giving
that up.
them a distorted view of sex, which then affects their relationships
Yes.
in ongoing. And there have been, adult relationships, and they're having trouble, and then they're all will realize through therapy that it was caused by some of these things that happened in their childhood.
Right.
So,
And you brought up a word that I think we need to go back to: inappropriate. There was the former lieutenant governor went on this quote unquote banned book tour. Nobody was trying to ban any books. It was inappropriate reading material and visual material for the ages that it was being shown to and read to and demonstrated to. It's inappropriate. That's the word, not banned. Inappropriate.
exactly. They're
And that's
not
been
banned.
that way. It's been that way for a long, long time. A long, long time. There are other magazines that were out there, publications that were quote unquote inappropriate, that were on the high shelf behind the cashier's, the cashier at the counter at the convenience store, because it was quote unquote inappropriate and illegal for that particular person to sell it to a minor. So that's the word, not banned, inappropriate. So
And the important thing is when someone does challenge me or challenges others about the books,
Right.
I really say, have you read them?
yeah.
I actually had a conversation face to face with Dave Zuckerman, and I expressed my distaste for his
Right.
tour of whatever
Right.
you call it. And I said, have you actually read this book or this book? No. And so he did listen when I explained,
Right.
the inappropriateness of it. But
Well, yeah, I
What
don't
can
know
we
how
do?
far it went, but unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of another segment. We got to pay some bills. We will be right back. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. Before we get back into our discussion, I just want to remind our listeners, if for some reason you can't catch us on WNTK Radio, you can go to WNTK.com, click on the podcast button, and scroll down to Right Side Up. You'll be able to find any number of our shows. Click on each and every one of the shows, hopefully, any time of the day or night, because it's in podcast form at that point. And if you like it, by all means, share it with a friend. You can find us on Podbean. You can find us on GraniteGrock.com. You can find us on 802 Scoop Facebook. You can find us on 802 Scoop YouTube. and I think I've covered all the venues that you can find us on now. Getting back into the discussion with Marie Tiemann from Speak Vermont and speakvermont.org, I think you said you wanted to make sure that you put your email out there for the Speak Vermont, so take it away.
So, yeah, if you would like to email us, it's just Speak Vermont, Vermont spelled out, at gmail.com. Very easy. Speak Vermont at Gmail, which our website, though, is speakvt.org.
Okay.
And we're going to be bringing some new updates to that, just more informational updates that are preparing parents or help parents prepare for school, just things to ask their school board, not school board, excuse me, just things for them to investigate, really get to know the teachers, develop that communication with them, get to know what your rights are, get to know what the school policies are, look at that. Does the school have the policy? Well, Vermont has the policy for the 2 folders. Make sure you are aware of that, and just look at curriculum. Go to the school's websites, look at the different practices that they promote, and I would also say look at the school calendar. I looked at our district's school calendar and realized there was nothing of an American history on that particular year to celebrate. It was all of other types of things. I definitely think it's great to have the multicultural awareness and multicultural studies, but just promote things that are valuable to you, so, and to your family.
Okay. And you there was a national website that you referred to earlier.
It's I hope I get this right, defendinged.org.
Okay.
Or if you can find it on Defending Education. So they have a lot of good resources as well. And we'll also, if you find incidences in the school, let us know. We have a lot of parents who tell us things, but they are afraid to speak out. And so we take those incidences and try to work with them and make that's why we're working for a parents' rights petition, or try to advocate for them or give them some guidance on how they can move forward with whatever incident that they're experiencing. So that's one of the things that we do. And we will help, with teachers too, who may be up against something. Teachers have lost their jobs in parts of the country. I don't know specifically here. I know teachers here who have left because they don't want to teach a certain subject matter or a certain ideology. But there have been teachers who have lost their jobs across the nation, and they've won their cases. I have to say, they have won their cases.
Right.
So
that's a good trend.
Yeah.
Hopefully it continues. All right. We talked about you want to talk a little bit more about parental rights in education, and I hope we have a little bit of time we can talk about school choice.
Yeah,
So-
I think as part of parental rights, they should have that option to have a school choice for their child. And in a real idealistic world, you wouldn't be limited to your school district, but you could choose even another school district, and also an independent school. There's a moratorium on forming independent schools here in Vermont, and I know of a group that wanted to form one a couple of years ago, and then they couldn't pursue it because there's this moratorium. And
Okay. Something to look into.
homeschooling's grown tremendously. There are a lot of good homeschooling groups. And even though it seems impossible because you're working, there are other avenues that can help children and help these families that are just struggling. We only have so many hours in the day and so many hours in the school day
Right.
that they need to come back to being focused on some good academics of merit, get rid of the activism and all the political persuasion, just bring the good academics back. And I know there's a lot of time in the day spent on emotional learning. There are cases where that is important, but there's an awful lot of time spent on that.
Okay. But the school choice you bring up, it's a very good point. School choice not just being independent schools, but homeschooling,
Right.
Charter schools, religious schools. Why in the rest of our lives we have all these other options, but to be restricted or have so few options in education, I have a hard time understanding why. I mean, it's more CTEs. We definitely need career and technical education.
Yeah.
We obviously have the need, and not to go off too much on a tangent, but we need tradespeople. CTEs will give us that. So why not have more? Why not have more? So all the options will just give parents and students a bigger palette to choose from.
Exactly.
I mean, if you have a student who, and I'm sure you hear about it all the time, not all the kids in school want to just sit and look at a book all day.
Exactly.
They can do other things very well, and they can excel at them, and us not taking advantage of that doesn't make very much sense in
Right.
my view.
Right.
So, and I've talked about this, and I think I've talked about this on air before, but with all the variety of schools, I think because there is competition for the student, that the quality will be there and the price will be moderated. And I don't think we're going to have. I can just see the attitudes of the kids increasing. I mean, look
Yeah.
at we finally. I don't know. We forgot to even talk about this. We did get the no cell phone free schools
Yeah.
passed. So I'm hoping we reap rewards from that very rapidly, that we can actually see and say, look, we got this one right.
Yeah, I agree with that. And along those lines, I do want to mention a book by a young lady who's now living in Washington, D.C. with her family, but she was raised in Essex, went to Essex High School, then went to Georgetown University, and has written a book called The Tech Exit. And Claire Morrell is her name. And it's a practical guide to help parents get their kids off of social media in particular.
Okay.
So she would also promote getting away from the iPads in school and going back to face-to-face contact with the teacher versus having the screens. But you're right. We did get it right with no cell phones during the school day. I think we will see an improvement. I think kids will be happier in the long run.
And
It'll be an adjustment. They'll have
be
to
engaging with each other,
Yeah.
like you and I. We're sitting
Yeah.
having a conversation here.
Yeah.
Instead of being this far away and each of us staring at our phones, texting back and forth, when we could just look up and talk.
Yeah.
Being taught that cell phone doesn't have to be part of your life every minute of every day. And how much, administrators I saw, I can't remember the name of them, if it wasn't a movie that was named, but I did watch something up in Montpelier when I was in session during lunchtime about some of the successes that they have had in schools. One, I think, is right here in Vermont. One is in Virginia, and I can't remember where there was another one. But I hope very rapidly we start hearing and seeing that was a very good step in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think having more options for parents and students is the best outcome. Not all students learn the same,
No,
as
they don't.
we know.
Yes.
And having for parents to have that choice, I so agree with the CTE. Let's see that kids can be happier in what they're doing, what they're learning. This should be a time where they're flourishing, and society depends on it. Society depends on a good quality education of our children, and passing those values and those that history on from generation to generation is so critical. So, we really want to help parents achieve that. And like I was telling you in the beginning of the show, I'm now I have more time now that I can work part-time. I'm more able to go out to other communities, meet with some parents, and help them. And, they are welcome to form their own group, but we can help them if they would just like to come along and, join some of our efforts with parents' rights, with school choice, and also with the opt-out.
Okay.
And also, I would like to see more parents express their views on the Title IX, because, June was Title IX month.
Okay.
It's the 23rd. It was signed into law in June in 1972.
Okay.
And that was a chance to give girls an equal opportunity in sports and education. And over the last 4 years, it has eroded a bit because they've allowed males to be in girls' sports. Mm-hmm. Girls have lost scholarships. Girls have been harmed physically.
We covered a number of instances where girls, not just in this country, in this state, but all over the world, have been harmed. And we saw there was an incident, an Olympic boxer.
Yes.
Female Olympic boxer who probably would have won the title had she not been put up against a male boxer.
But we're pleased to see how the University of Pennsylvania rolled it back. They apologized to the female athletes and gave them the trophies. They took away the male trophies. So that was a step in the right direction.
Okay,
and why not do this for girls? It's about protecting them, and it's about fairness.
Yeah,
it
really
is fair. And, there can be some sort of other accommodations for other people, but let's protect our women. The women who are in their position, the women who are in positions of higher power, so to speak, or in higher offices, how did they get there? They got there because of the opportunity that Title IX presented. Not because some male decided he was going to take their place. And you can see where that can happen in the corporate world. It's not just going to happen in sports. It can happen in the corporate world.
Right. So, well, yeah, I'm glad we had a chance to even cover the Title IX stuff, because we've covered it on the show before. But I think, like you said, what happened at Pennsylvania, what they did with the apology and giving those young women the trophies that they earned, I think is a step in the right direction. It really is. Right. And giving women who train for half or most of their lives in a sport, to go and have a young male who identifies as a female go and jump in a year and a half's time just dash their dreams, it just makes no sense. And the harm, not just the harm to a possible career, but the psychological harm that it can do. So we're coming to the end of the show. Marie, I'm thankful that you were able to come join us. Marie Tiemann from Speak Vermont. I don't know if you've got any couple quick last words, but we're just about to the end of the show. So
thanks for having me. It's great to be here. It's always good to have conversation with you. We could go on for so much longer,
right?
But well, thank you.
And if something comes up, get a hold of me. We'll have you back on.
All right. So go to speakvt.org or speakvermont@gmail.com to get a hold of us, and we'll help you in any way that we can.
Great. So
thanks so much.
This is the end of the show for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, stay safe, stay informed, listen to Right Side Up.